The man who lived in the barrel and challenged the world. Diogenes the Cynic, Stoic bloom. What if the secret to true freedom was not found in wealth, fame, or comfort, but in a wooden barrel, barefoot in the snow? He insulted emperors, mocked philosophers, rejected luxury, and yet his bold defiance still echoes through 2,000 years of philosophy. This is the untamed story of Diogenes the Cynic, an ancient rebel who dared to ask the question we're too afraid to confront. Are you really living or just following? Part 1, the barrel philosopher who defied the world. In the heart of bustling Athens, where intellect and ego collided under marble pillars, one man chose to sleep in a barrel, not because he was mad, but because he was free. Diogenes the Cynic, born around 412 BC, wasn't just a philosopher, he was a living disruption. While others wore robes and quoted Socrates in polished lecture halls, Diogenes stood barefoot in the marketplace, holding a lantern in broad daylight, muttering, "I'm looking for an honest man." Most thought he was insane, but the madness was strategic. He was stripping away the layers of hypocrisy that governed polite society. He believed that comfort enslaved the soul, that wealth corrupted virtue, and that pretending to be civilized often meant pretending to be alive. He rejected the idea that wisdom needed to be dressed up in titles, rituals, or institutions. Philosophy to him was raw, practical, unfiltered, and often offensive. One of his most infamous moments, standing outside a brothel shouting, "A beautiful prostitute is like poisoned honey." When men tossed him coins to shut him up, he accepted them, then walked inside. Later he said, "Yes, I begged, and what do you teach?" When they sneered at him, he calmly replied, "Generosity." This was Diogenes, brutal in honesty, fearless in public ridicule, and completely unshackled from social expectations. He did not ask permission to speak truth. He lived it. And maybe, just maybe, the reason we're still talking about him is because deep down, we wish we had the courage to do the same. If you find yourself drawn to this kind of unfiltered wisdom, the kind that doesn't tell you how to impress others, but how to free yourself from their opinions, then you've landed in the right place. Subscribe to Stoic Bloom, share this video with a friend who's drowning in social expectations, or simply hit like if you'd rather walk barefoot through the agora than attend another soul-sucking Zoom meeting. The ancient rebels welcome you. Stoic Bloom, rebel with a cause, live free, think deep. Part 2, poverty by choice, wisdom by fire. Diogenes didn't stumble into poverty. He walked into it, deliberately, defiantly, and with clarity. He wasn't a man who had lost everything. He was a man who chose to lose everything that didn't matter. In an age where status meant silk robes and silver coins, Diogenes chose rags and simplicity. He owned nothing but a cloak, a staff, and a wooden cup, until one day he saw a child drinking water with his hands. In that moment, Diogenes threw away the cup. Why keep what a child could live without? To him, poverty was not a curse. It was a weapon that stripped life to its core. Without the distractions of possessions, one could finally see the truth of existence. He bathed in streams, ate scraps, and slept where he pleased. His body endured the cold of winter and the heat of summer, not out of necessity, but out of training. He would walk barefoot in the snow and roll in hot sand, not to punish himself, but to master discomfort before discomfort mastered him. It wasn't asceticism for show, it was discipline for freedom. As Marcus Aurelius would later echo, the impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. Diogenes anticipated this mindset by centuries. He saw pain as a tool, not a torment. People mocked him, spat at him, insulted him. He remained unbothered. One man once spat directly on Diogenes' face. Without flinching, Diogenes wiped it off with his sleeve and said, If men endure being splashed by the sea to catch a sardine, why should I not endure a little spit to earn my supper? This is not weakness. This is power, of the rarest kind, the power of inner invincibility. Epictetus, another Stoic giant, once said, "Freedom is the only worthy goal in life." Diogenes lived that truth literally. He didn't just talk about detachment. He embodied it. His life was his message, and that message still pierces through the noise of modern luxury and anxiety. You are not free until you need nothing. No palace, no praise, no possession could tempt him back into the illusion of control. Diogenes had already won a kind of war most men never realize they're in, the war against themselves. Part 3, the philosopher who challenged kings and mocked gods where others bowed. Diogenes barked. He wasn't just rejecting effort, he was confronting power. And he did it not with swords or armies, but with ridicule sharper than any blade. One day Diogenes was found washing vegetables in a river when Plato walked by. Plato said with disdain, "If you knew how to flatter kings, you wouldn't be washing vegetables." Without missing a beat, Diogenes replied, "And if you knew how to wash vegetables, you wouldn't need to flatter kings." That was Diogenes in a sentence, direct, cutting, and utterly unimpressed. He saw through the illusions that others call greatness. Kings were not noble, they were needy. Philosophers weren't wise, they were wordy. Society wasn't civil, it was just better dressed savagery. When a crowd once praised a victorious athlete being paraded through town, Diogenes smirked and said, "Look at this man, defeated by every pretty girl he sees." He mocked temples, turned his back to sacred processions, and lived as if he had been born immune to shame. When asked why he walked backward through the marketplace, he replied, "You laugh at me for walking a few steps backwards, but you live your whole lives upside down." Even the gods weren't spared his sarcasm. When people feared cursed trees or superstitions, Diogenes would suck on the fruit like it was medicine, declaring, "Thus I purify it." While others saw omens, he saw opportunities to expose stupidity. And it wasn't just theatrics, it was strategy. Like a Stoic jester, Diogenes used absurdity to reveal absurdity. He believed that until you could laugh at the world, you were still a prisoner of it. His life was a lesson in how to stay untouchable, not by hiding, but by stepping fully into the storm with nothing to lose. And speaking of losing, if you're still clinging to the illusion that YouTube wisdom must be polished, polite, and professionally filtered, let us be your barrel. This is Stoic Bloom, where truth sometimes smells like raw onions, but hits harder than a philosopher's punchline. So, if you're tired of sugar-coated advice, if you'd rather be offended into awareness than coddled into ignorance, subscribe to this channel. Like this video if you've ever wanted to roll your eyes at modern nonsense. Share it with that friend who quotes Plato but can't cook vegetables. And leave a comment. What would you say to Diogenes if he showed up barefoot at your door? Stoic Bloom. When the world fakes it, we strip it down. Part 4. Searching for honesty in a dishonest world. One bright day in the crowded Athenian marketplace, Diogenes walked slowly among the people holding a lit lantern high above his head. The sun was blazing. Confused onlookers asked, "What are you doing?" And he answered, "I am searching for an honest man." The crowd laughed, but Diogenes didn't. He stared at them one by one, his eyes piercing through the layers of masks they wore. Status, politeness, pride, and finding only pretense. Disgusted, he shook his head and walked away muttering, "I called for men, and no one came." This wasn't theater, it was prophecy. Diogenes understood something terrifyingly simple. Honesty is the rarest form of courage. Most people lie, not maliciously but constantly, to others, and especially to themselves. We lie to fit in, to sound smart, to protect feelings, to protect egos. We say yes when we mean no. We compliment when we're indifferent. We nod to avoid conflict. And then we wonder why life feels heavy. Diogenes didn't lie. He didn't pretend. His truth wasn't just verbal. It was embodied. When no one listened to his philosophical arguments at the academy, he stood up and began whistling and dancing like a fool. Suddenly, the crowd turned to him. He stopped, looked at them coldly, and said, "You ignore wisdom, but you gather for foolishness." He wasn't just mocking them. He was revealing them. What's remarkable is that Diogenes never claimed to have all the answers. He simply believed that truth cannot be taught if it is not lived. He scorned books if they replaced action. When a disciple begged him for one of his writings, Diogenes scoffed, "Would you rather have a painted fig than a real one?" It's a message that slaps harder today than ever. We are drowning in advice, in content, in self-help quotes and how-to hacks, but starving for lived wisdom. Diogenes reminds us that truth doesn't come from words. It comes from will, from how you walk, what you endure, what you don't need, from how much hypocrisy you're willing to lose, even if it means losing your place in the crowd. He didn't find the honest man that day in the marketplace. Maybe that's because the honest man is not something you find, but someone you become by letting go of everything that isn't true. Part 5, Freedom Chains in the Sweetness of the Prison. "Tell me, Diogenes," a young man asked, "should I get married?" Diogenes looked at him for a moment. "Marriage is too early for the young," he said flatly. "Then should I wait until I'm older?" the man continued. Diogenes shrugged. "No, then it's too late." Exasperated, the young man admitted, "But I love her." "Love is a luxury," Diogenes replied, "fit for those with nothing better to do." "Then what should I do?" "Seek freedom," Diogenes answered. That exchange reveals more than sarcasm. It's a diagnosis. Diogenes saw attachment as the most seductive prison, not because love, wealth, or comfort are evil, but because they're sweet, sweet enough to make you forget you're chained. He believed that true freedom isn't the ability to do whatever you want. It's the courage to want less, to strip life down to the essentials, to make peace with solitude. Because the more you cling to things, people, or titles, the more your soul belongs to them. And he didn't just say this, he lived it. He refused power, flattery, even companionship. When asked if freedom meant loneliness, he responded, "We are born alone. We die alone, so why live any differently?" This wasn't nihilism, it was clarity. The Stoics would later echo this deeply. Seneca wrote, "He is most powerful who has power over himself." And Epictetus reminded us, "Only the educated are free." What did they mean? That freedom isn't found in escape, but in endurance, in seeing life clearly, without illusion, in choosing virtue over vanity. Diogenes had nothing, no family, no fame, no future plan, and yet no man could insult him, bribe him, or control him. Because when you need nothing, you fear nothing. So if you're still wondering whether you are free, ask yourself, what could be taken from you that would break you? That's the measure of your chains. And hey, if this kind of ruthless honesty hits home, if you've ever felt like your life was comfortable but not quite free, smash that like button as if it were a golden chain. Subscribe to Stoic Bloom for more ancient wisdom that doesn't babysit your ego. Share this video with someone who thinks freedom comes with a mortgage and a wedding ring. And if you're brave enough, drop a comment below. What's the sweetest prison you've escaped or still live in? Stoic Bloom. The less you need, the more you are. Part 6. The nightmare of luxury and the courage to walk backwards. Someone once asked Diogenes what his greatest nightmare was. Without hesitation, he replied, "Waking up in a palace while everyone else still lives in barrels." Most would consider that a dream. Diogenes saw it as a trap. To him, privilege wasn't success. It was sedation. The more gold you have, the more silence you require to keep it. The more comfortable your life, the more fragile your soul. So he walked backward through the Agora, Athens' central marketplace, laughing as crowds stared in disbelief. When asked why, he said, "You laugh because I walk backward a few steps. Yet you live your entire lives upside down." That moment, absurd as it seemed, was a pure act of rebellion. Not against people, but against the silent hypnosis of habit. Everyone in the market moved forward, buying, selling, chasing, pretending. Diogenes moved against the tide, not to be different, but to remind them they were drifting. He didn't mock for the sake of spectacle. He exposed how unnatural our normal had become. It's the same today. We scroll endlessly, upgrade compulsively, overthink, overwork, believing movement equals meaning. Diogenes would have laughed, not because it's funny, but because it's tragic. We're chasing more while becoming less. Marcus Aurelius warned, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it." Diogenes practiced the Stoic truth with his entire being. He didn't just say that palaces were meaningless. He lived like they were prisons. He understood a paradox we often forget. To live authentically, you sometimes have to walk backward, so you can see where the world is rushing blindly forward. Diogenes wasn't trying to convert anyone. He was showing, by contrast, what it means to be unmoved. The more the world mocked him, the freer he became. Because freedom, in the end, is not about escape, it's about stance. Closing. The final reflection and a Stoic invitation. What Diogenes teaches us is not how to reject society, but how to see through it, to reclaim the one thing we were born with and often die without: freedom of mind. He did not live in a barrel to suffer. He lived in a barrel because it was the only space left untouched by delusion. Every act of his life was a protest against the false, a reminder that wisdom begins not in the library, but in the mirror. In a world drunk on opinion, he remained sober in truth. Where others built reputations, he burned illusions. Where people begged for more, he trained to need less. He was not popular. He was not polite, but he was real. That is the through line of this channel, Stoic Bloom. Here we don't decorate pain with philosophy, we confront it. We don't sell dreams, we reveal delusions. We are not here to be liked, we are here to be clear. So if you're tired of the noise, the fakery, the digital dopamine, and you're seeking stillness, sanity, and ancient clarity in a modern mess, join us. Subscribe to this channel not to follow, but to remember what it means to walk alone with purpose. Share this video with a friend who's secretly searching for something real. Leave a comment if a single line shook you awake. And like this video, not for vanity, but because the algorithm needs a little shove toward wisdom. Thank you for walking through the dust of ancient defiance with us. Stoic Bloom, strip it down, live it real.